Amy, can you hear me?
Linda?
Boo.
Hello?
Hey, Amy, it's Glenda.
I know, I hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my mic, and if I'm called on, I'll speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready to roll?
Yes.
Ready to go. All right, guys. Welcome to the budget city council work session for budget for September 15th, 2022.
Not there.
If you guys want to please stand with me, we'll do an invocation real quick. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for another day to serve our citizens, God. Help us to make wise, smart financial decisions for each and every one of us and all of our citizens. Just bless the rest of this day and help the Chiefs win tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What's that? Yeah. Oh, Madam Clerk, you want to take the roll if you're on there?
Yes, Mrs. Roth,
Here?
Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mrs. North,
Here.
Mr. Van Houten.
Here.
Mayor, we do have a quorum present.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask Mrs. Dunn to have the floor, please.
All right. You're about to see how flexible of a person I am because they did some work on my laptop today and my presentation is in on my desktop. It won't appear on my laptop. So we'll see how good my memory is as well. So tonight is a work session. This is an exchange of ideas and any last direction you'd like to give on the 2023 budget. There are no changes to this budget from the report that you were given last week. I wanted to give you the big highlights, which I think is a solid budget, achieving the direction that you've given us to accomplish, and that we've done the things that you felt were important in the budget. And we do that with a lower mill levy and more revenue, and hopefully a good investment of that money in the right expense categories. Can you switch it up to the, perfect. And you have seen this before several times now. I'm not introducing anything new tonight. But the most critical thing, I think, is that we were able to reduce the mill levy in both the fire and no fire areas by about a third of a full mill, coming in lower than the cap that was published in the paper, as well as, or what was published in the paper and the cap that you gave us. So I'm pretty proud that we were able to do that. The second thing is we do have more ad valorem tax as revenue because of the increased assessed valuation, which is right under $140 million. So you know, I happened to look today, and in 2019, the assessed value was $104 million. So you can see the growth that we've had in just 3 years. And we did take that increased ad valorem tax into this budget. We also, at your advice on the sales tax, I think we have a conservative estimate in our sales tax. I did bring it to estimated 2022 levels, and then I increased it another 2%. And so that's part of how I was able to reduce the mill levy even further, is that I believe we're going to get revenue, more and more sales tax revenue, simply because we have more citizens. And of course, the new Quick Trip in our neighborhood. The other items in revenue were kept the same. So the franchise tax you've seen, the other service fees, aquatic center and things like that were all kept as they were previously presented to you in August. Can I answer any questions about revenue before I move on to expenditures?
I think I'm good.
This
So I
work
think
session.
it sounds like you came in very conservative with the first swing.
Yes.
And then since then, you've adjusted maybe more appropriately to the more accurate prediction of,
I'm going to call it a little less conservative.
sure,
It's still pretty
but
conservative.
still, okay.
Yeah, that sales tax revenue, if things were to fall off, which you can listen to whatever newscast you want, I was conservative that we wouldn't have an oops that we couldn't recover from. But I believe I'll be in here next year asking you to amend the budget for more sales tax revenue. So. Conservatively optimistic, how about that? Okay. Also, if the group, I know we don't have any non-staff here tonight, so if anyone else has questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. If they have something to add, be happy to have their input. On the expense side, we are seeing, of course, like everybody else, like in our homes and everywhere, increased costs. The changes since the first proposed budget that you saw are a couple of significant ones. We have adjusted down legal expenses. That was one Chuck was quick to volunteer and I was quick to take. I've cut about $120,000 out of this budget. Chuck quickly volunteered about $60,000. Between the work we're doing with him and some of the offers he's making on how his fee structure would look going forward, other changes the city may make, I felt comfortable reducing it by that much. There were some legal expenses in 22. We certainly hope to not repeat in 23 or any future years. And so I think that's a conservative estimate. I think we may see more savings than that, but it's a conservative estimate. I did adjust salaries for potential retirements. That was an increase. We reduced fuel by about $15,000 simply because the market is down and we were projecting during the highest times, so we did adjust that down. I think those are the significant items. We still have your $1 million cash reserve budgeted versus the $750 we have in 22. And we're also projecting a contingency, which is the cash beyond $1 million, of about $244,000. So there is an unbudgeted contingency in there for unforeseen things of $244,000, which is an increase over what we had in 2022. I'm thinking of what was on my presentation. I made no changes to the water and wastewater since we were last together. We are looking at rates. We have just today got the budgeted numbers from the water districts that we purchase from. And so we'll see how that works out. But at the time to approve a budget, we are going to go with the 22 level of revenue and expense and make adjust if we need to in the future. On the other budgeted funds, which is not budgeted, the other levied funds, which you have the general fund, which we talked the most about, you have the debt service fund, you have the cemetery fund, and you have the fire fund. And those all saw a slight increase in ad valorem tax. The fire district provided their budget. That's simply a pass through to the taxpayers. Cemetery is down a little bit, and the other two are really flat. And so we're taking in and spending out basically what we do. So in all of that, in summary, we are able to give a lower mill levy. We're able to budget and do the things that we need to help push the city forward and capture the revenue that is coming to us. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions, leave for input, whatever you'd like to do here on the budget. I really apologize. I have a great presentation in the other room. Well, I would say the exact same things, but with numbers.
Yeah. We were able to keep the additional $250K for cash reserve, right?
Yes,
Okay, so that,
No, that was,
in addition to the 244.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, separate.
so the 244, what would that be kind of unbudgeted for? You said it's not for anything particular.
No, absolutely unforeseen. It's whatever, it's a contingency. Example, if you had to settle a lawsuit of some kind that we cannot possibly predict or make a claim by a third party or something like that would go there.
Is that like a percentage of the total budget, or how do you come up with that number?
That's the difference in your planned cash carry forward and how much I'm predicting we will carry forward in 2022.
Oh, okay, so it's more, prediction.
It's what's left, basically. And as opposed to spending what's left, we put it in the budget so that you can purposefully spend it if necessary, but we hope that won't be necessary. That's why it's a contingency.
it gives us a little wiggle room if necessary.
That's right. truly unforeseen things. We can't predict today.
Emergency fund, basically.
Right.
As far as the sales revenue goes, what made you go with 2% rather than like 5%? I know we had talked about 2, 5, 10, all the different ones.
I looked at, historically, that ranges from 25% 2 years ago to about 17% this year. I went with 2% because I had constraints in the budget that I couldn't pass that on as an expense because we published the budget.
Okay.
And so I left it at the maximum it would allow me to do, which was 2%.
Okay.
I think it's conservative.
So we can't go to 5,
No.
Okay.
You can if you want to reduce other revenue.
but not to reduce the mill levy.
You could, yes, you could reduce the mill levy with it.
Okay.
I would not, I'll always be this person. You guys can be the mill levy reducers.
Yeah.
That's a slippery slope because I would rather be conservative in this year with a small increase than coming back next year to ask for an increase because we couldn't do it, you know. So I would recommend that you be conservative with your reductions in mill levy.
Okay.
And if we guess low on sales tax, it comes in higher, which is most likely what's gonna happen. That's a good thing for us. That,
Puts
It's
us in a
also
lot
not-
better position than the opposite.
Yeah.
yeah,
It is. I'm just thinking of how much the county increased values, how much that's going to
Right.
affect people. The only way we can affect that is by lowering the mill levy. So that's where I'm at. Is
Yeah.
how do we kind of get that
how
happy
far do you want to
medium?
push it, basically?
And
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
that can be done.
Yeah.
And it would be a direct reduction to the mill levy. Also, if you conservatively budget your revenue, then had I done that in the budget, we could have budgeted to spend that money. If we leave it as a revenue item, I would have to come back to you and amend a budget for it to be spent.
Okay.
As opposed to, well, it just went in the pot with everything else and it got spent. You could make a very decided effort on how you wanted that money to be used if it comes in above the target.
Yeah.
And I think guessing sales tax would be really hard this year with Quick Trip in the mix.
I think once we have a year or two under our belt,
You're gonna have to
it'll be
see at least one, maybe two, to really see what that's gonna trend like.
Well, like she said, it's been a 25 and a 17% increase the last, so we're only doing
Yeah.
2. So we're doing quite a bit smaller. Yeah, that's just my only thought is, if there's a way for us just to knock down a little bit off the mill levy. I know we're under what we had kind of talked about before, but after looking at kind of the overall and people in particular, there's going to be a big increase, not because of us, but because of the valuation changes. So just how can we kind of meet that in the middle?
Take that off. Yes, that is, it would be a direct impact to the mill levy.
Yeah.
If you change any of your revenues.
So I don't know if anybody has any interest in doing that or not, or if you guys are that set against or not, but that would be kind of where my mind is to maybe jump it a little bit on the sales revenue, because I'm confident that 5 is still going to be way lower than what our increase is going to be, but.
I'd really like to see what the actual numbers are after a year with Quick Trip, and not, be more on the ultra conservative side of things, and do the amendment with the additional sales tax, down the road, as opposed to trying to guess what it is right now. We know it's going to be bigger than what we're predicting it as, and it could be a really big number or just a big number. So, I mean, I agree with you that the 5%, we're still going to be over 5%, but I think initially with this first year with Quick Trip, I think staying below that will be a benefit to us down the road, and we can make a drastic change a year or two from now if we're seeing big consistent numbers consistently rolling in from that.
Well, I think, we were able to lower both mill levies, which I think is great. And I think to your point, to both of your points, really a little bit, if something were to happen and we were to have to go up next year, I'd much rather go down this year and then be able to go down next year versus, shoot it down quite a bit farther this year and then, oh crap, we have to raise it next year.
Yeah, because we got each of them, fire and no fire, down about $500,000 this year. And if we see a big number in sales tax, my goal for next year's budget would be to be looking at more of an entire mill or more reduction if the sales tax is showing that we can do that.
And if you look back historically, even just the last few years, I mean, we're down 4 mills over what we were 3 years ago.
Right.
So
I
it's-
think
The
it's
oth-
also important to point out that we've got some pretty large expenditures coming. This budget does not include a CIP.
Yeah.
We know that, we probably have at least one or two dump trucks. That's gonna push about 300,000 just right there. And a significant, expenditures coming up in street maintenance that we'll be bringing back during the next budget cycle. So with those in mind, I would ask the governing body,
Be conservative.
be conservative this year, allow us the next 6 months to come up with an assessment of our projects and CIP, that we're gonna be looking at. So just keep that in mind. We would love to go down a mill, but I would echo, Finance Director that we should probably be cautious this first budget cycle and then see where we're at next year.
I'll also do a little math for you in my head. The budget for 2022 for sales tax was 2.1 million. We're probably gonna come in, 2.8 or something like that. If we were to take a 5% increase on that 2.8, that is roughly $140,000. That's 1 mil. Just to give you an idea. We've already taken 2, so it would be less than that. A 5% would reduce the mill levy 1 mil.
And I think, I think we've heard from the people that roads are a absolute top priority.
Yeah.
And I think we've made some very good progress on that the last few months, but I think we can all agree that we still have a long ways to go. So I think being conservative, like everyone else has kind of stated, to be able to, see where we're at. Let's get all these projects that need done, that have needed done for years. Let's evaluate everything, figure out where we're at, so we can still serve the people by servicing the roads, but also be financially smart when it comes to the mill levy and everything else as well.
There are 3 things not included in this budget I did not mention. One is your capital improvements. One is your equipment, and the other is your vehicles. Those are not budgeted in here. We'll have to use, a surplus that may come from the 22 budget, or utilize our 22s, or utilize that sales tax in 23, something like that, to accommodate what we need to do in equipment and vehicles and capital.
I agree. I have a very frugal mindset of being conservative and budget this much, and if you get more, that's great, that's icing on the cake, and then there's always going to be something that we need to find funding for.
Right.
Whether it be streets or vehicles or an unexpected, situation that we can't
Increase
foresee.
in healthcare. And,
Right.
It could be, yeah.
So I think this is a great opportunity for us to lower the mill levy, lower than what it's been in 4 years. Yes, I know that people are seeing an increased value in their home. Unfortunately, that's one of the joys of home ownership. But like I said, like you mentioned earlier, the cost of everything for us doing business is also going up. So our costs are increasing as well. So it's not like an inverse relationship between revenue going up and our expenses going down. No, expenses are going up. So
Right.
I think this is a happy medium that will hopefully make 99.9% of the population happy, hopefully, and then me happy as well as a taxpayer.
Absolutely.
And also hopefully the city allow them to operate and do what we need to do and give the services that we need to be providing.
I think all of us, if we could snap our fingers, we'd love to slash, 5 mills off the mill levy.
Right.
I mean, that'd be great, but looking at the overall budget, I just think that's not practical with being able to provide the services and fix the roads and do everything that needs to be done.
Beautiful parks and
As long as we're systematically driving the mill levy down year after year and accomplishing the projects and the maintenance and repairs that we know we're behind on, like that's the strategy that I am after. So.
any other input? Any other discussion you'd like to have around budget as a work session? Any direction you'd like to give when you see the final one this week?
I don't think I have anything else in mind.
That's really my only question.
Actually,
Anything you wish was there and you haven't heard about? I might have it in there, I just haven't talked about it.
This isn't directly related to an item, but maybe this is just more of an administrative question. I know obviously this is the budget was a multi-page document, and I know it was emailed to us, but it might also be helpful to have it available here, just
You
instead
got
of on this tiny screen.
Yep, you got it. You will get a hard copy this week with the memo on the top of it, and
Well, and I get that that's a lot of printing, and I don't
Nope.
need that every meeting, but
no, I have waited until we have the final
Sure.
one to print. It's usually about 50 pages of details, so I've waited for this, and then I'll be happy to give you a printed copy with after any adjustments we have tonight, if we do.
sure,
Perfect.
thank you.
I'm just happy with the overall budget process. I think we're moving in the right direction. We've had challenges with new staff coming on in inopportune times when it comes to budget, and you guys have stepped up to the plate and done really well with that. So
Thank you.
I'm really proud of that. And this is the first budget process and session for this group of governing body, and I really think like that we're heading in the right direction. We're doing what most of our citizens want us to do, and we're doing it in a smart way. So
And I want to echo that. Thank you to Rhonda for all your hard work on it. Like he said, you stepped in kind of right in the middle, the hot season of budget workshop. So I appreciate that. And then also
Thank you.
Lane for stepping in and helping wherever you helped on all this. So
It'll look different next year. And that won't be on September 22nd. So there's my commitment. The key thing for me tonight is for you to feel comfortable on next Thursday on voting for the budget that we've put together. And so I'd really want to answer any concerns or, this is our budget. We have to live under it. So anything you want changed, I want to make sure we do that. Or anything you have trepidation about, I'd like to talk about it so that next week when you vote, and I certainly hope you vote in favor of the proposed budget, that you are comfortable with the decision that you're making.
could we get that hard copy relatively soon after this so we have time between now and next week to really analyze
yeah,
it in case we do have any questions or changes or anything?
I'd be happy to print it tonight if you'd like.
If the hard copy isn't attainable
It is.
tomorrow, like I'm okay with the digital copy.
Yeah, that's fine too, because I can.
No, I will happily, I can literally do it tonight if you want, but I can
I'm
also.
not going to be reading mine tonight.
No,
I didn't think you would. It's like, I don't think anybody wants a delay tonight, so we will have it tomorrow. For sure.
I think it's also important to note that just talking to like citizens, everybody up here is up here in the best interest of the community as a whole. So that's the hat that we wear up here, but we're also taxpayers ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're also part of the community that pays these taxes. So, I think sometimes that loses face a little bit. And so I think it's just important to remind anybody that's listening or not listening that, again, up here, we're speaking and making decisions that's best for the community as a whole. But after we walk out there, we're also taxpayers too. So we have to agree with this on a personal level as well.
Right.
So I just think that's important to mention as well.
I'll send
Not
it
like
my,
we're a third party faceless people over here. No, this is the community we.
you're gonna write the check.
Exactly.
Yeah, our valuation went up too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just like everyone else.
I will send out to you, the most important thing in the presentation that I had was a list of bullet points on what this budget means in words. And they were the things I said to you in the beginning, which is a lower mill levy. You have increased revenue from increased population, increased revenue from increased valuation, which we have no control over. Lower expenses where we can. Are addressing a tough market on employees and maintaining talented people and attracting new ones. So I have some good bullets that when you're in those conversations, I hope can help you articulate what the budget really means in words. And I think we've accomplished the things that you wanted to in it as well.
I think it is great that the mill levy did come in less than it was last year.
Right?
I like the thought process of Councilman Young that next year, as we see how much sales tax we get from Quick Trip, and that I think it would be good to definitely try to lower it next year and not just be worried that maybe we might need a lot more in cash reserves, because that's what we see with a lot of other budgeting Johnson County Board of County Commissioners, which has caused a lot of the increases with our housing assessments. Maybe we need to go to those meetings more and voice our opinion too, to try to get that lowered. But I think that's definitely the right direction we want to head, is lowering it, not being too fearful after we see what the sales taxes are to be able to lower it. I think Spring Hill's about the highest in Johnson County now, isn't it?
Probably.
I will answer that question for you soon. I'm getting some sales tax and property tax data I think is important for all of you. Not necessarily budget related, but I can look into that.
When you throw everything else in, yeah, because the schools and everything is so high.
And I think
People are taxed pretty high.
I think we could all agree that's the goal, is to, you know, be relatively conservative this year, and then once we see everything next year, you know, if we can lower the mill levy by a couple mills, I mean, that'd be great. So that's
Obviously, as
the goal
Pat
is
keeps
to-
us growing, you know.
Yeah.
And on the commercial side, that's what's gonna really help. And so, you know, that's really what I was looking for. I wasn't really looking to change the budget at all. I think it's pretty good. I like it. It was more of, hey, can we leverage a little bit more of the sales revenue to try to drop some of the mill levy? But
Yeah.
obviously, this year doesn't sound like that's gonna happen, but my goal would be next year to definitely do that.
Absolutely.
To drop it a significant amount, not just, you know, half here or there.
Well, and if we get blessed and those numbers come in a whole lot higher, the sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
'Cause there's also
If it continues the way. it's
hardware
going.
store and, you know, several other things that are
Exactly, yeah.
might be to the tail end of the year or something, but they're gonna be, liquor store coming in. So those things next year at some point will
Yeah.
open as well.
There's a lot of
So
stuff.
that'll generate
I think
revenue as well.
well, I guess it technically went down from 21 to 22. So I mean, just like the trend currently, and let's keep that trend going, is going down. And I think everybody up here is in favor of that. So as long as we keep that, and I think that's a good show of faith to the
Yeah.
community that that's our goal. We want to get this down, but yeah, we need to do it correctly.
I would add just a couple other things. I think that with Mr. Massey coming on board, over the next year, you're going to have a very different feel when we come to budget time. We're working on not just a strategic plan, but a financial strategic plan that will help you then see how the whole world is going to work in pieces, both financially, a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan, so that you aren't relying on the data I put together and what I tell you, but you know what our plan is and what our strategy. You've adopted these other pieces along the way, and then a budget, hopefully looking more at a 5-year budget, where you're seeing those plans become numbers that we can achieve, that kind of stuff. The other thing on sales tax, and I may have said this before, we don't just rely on, when I calculate in this budget, we need to rely on, we get about, in 2021, we got about $310 per resident in sales tax. In 2022, that's looking like about $350. So they're spending more in Spring Hill. So that's commercial growth, a quick trip. That doesn't include gas tax or alcohol tax, things like that, but just straight sales tax. So our people are buying more. And that's a good thing. That's where your commercial growth comes in. But as I look at these projections, I don't just take, oh, it's been 17, let me do 17. I look at how many people, how many houses we have open right
Natural
now,
growth, yeah.
and how many people per house, all those kind of things that we really can put some data behind those numbers as we go forward, for sure. I'll have you all talking that language before I'm done.
Any other questions, comments?
Any changes, anything you have heartburn about? I'd like to get it fixed in the next days.
I'm good.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks. Thanks. Good job getting in there at the 36 and 23 like our original request.
You got it. Happy to do it. Let's see where we can go from here.
Any other comments, anything with staff, anyone have anything they need to say or announce, or? I know we don't typically do announcements and reports at a budget meeting, but in case there are some important ones. Work session.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion?
Second.
Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you guys and go Chiefs.